UAB Blazers are set to host the Tulsa Golden Hurricane at Legion Field at 2 p.m. Saturday. The Blazers are 0-3, but coming off a pretty good performance in Columbus, Ohio against nationally ranked Ohio State. I'm Dan Harrelson alongside Nick Taylor. And let's preview this big UAB home game with BlazerTV.com's Tyler Cantrell. Tyler, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Just glad you guys let me come on today.
Well, we saw an interesting move by Coach Garrick McGee in the Ohio State game. Of course, Jonathan Perry was benched in that game, and Austin Brown, the backup redshirt freshman, came in, played pretty well. What's your thoughts on the quarterback situation going into this week?
Well, I did think Austin did some good things. He's a redshirt freshman, I should say, so he had a year under his belt of practice and being around the atmosphere of college football, and he has really done a good job, despite early doubts that he would, adjusting to Garrett McGee's system. There was some discussion about Austin Brown when they came in that he might have trouble going to this style of offense, a little bit more of a pro style, because he pretty much had always played a spread, and he really has just adjusted to it well. He's gone under center and has just picked this offense up really well. And Coach McGee appears to be much more comfortable with him than Jonathan Perry, who was the incumbent, was the returning starter. The thing about Perry is he had about 100 total yards of offense in the first quarter and was playing really well. I was not surprised to see Austin go in the game, but I was surprised to see Jonathan Perry not return to the game, because I really felt like both had done some good things. So, but I think really what it's coming down to is that Coach McGee is just more comfortable with Austin, even if the results may appear to fans and media that they're about even on the field.
Well, Tyler, I think what's interesting about this is not only, obviously, is there an actual quarterback battle going on the field, but it also is an opportunity for a UAB team that is 0-3 to kind of hit the reset button, and also to still have some positive media exposure in the program, because, let's face it, there's a reason why we're talking about a quarterback battle, and it's not necessarily because both guys are not playing well. It's actually quite the opposite. So what do you think about the dynamic of maybe giving people a reason to talk about UAB? And by playing both quarterbacks, you also keep the flow of media history going in the team as well.
I think it's a good point. I think any way to keep UAB in the media is good for the program, and there definitely was some excitement around it at the media luncheon. I don't think that's exactly what McGee's thought process is. I think he is just trying to find the right quarterback for his system. But going back to what you said, this is definitely not a quarterback controversy where guys are underperforming, and McGee doesn't appear to want to play both quarterbacks. He actually stated at the media luncheon that only one guy's going to play Saturday. Now, if that happens, coach speak, he may be leading Bill Blankenship and the Tulsa coaching staff in a different direction than what's going to happen, and I'm sure they'll be prepared for either or. But he appears to want to have one guy be the quarterback in conference. So, to me, it almost would make sense to play both, because I think that their skill sets are different. Coach McGee kind of went the opposite direction with that as well in the media luncheon, when he said that he felt like Perry and Austin Brown ran the football just well enough, made just enough plays with their feet, to make something happen, that they were both pass-first guys. Well, I do agree that they're both pass-first guys, and Jonathan Perry is not a running quarterback, but to me, the skill sets are entirely different, because Perry is able to make more plays with his feet than Austin Brown, when Austin Brown may be a tad more accurate. So I don't agree with Coach McGee on that, but he appears to want to drive that point home, because I just feel like he wants Austin Brown to be his guy at this point. He's more comfortable with what Austin's telling him he sees out there on the field, and you can just kind of tell his demeanor when he's talking about the two guys. I think that's what he is looking at, and he wants to get the guy he's most comfortable out there for conference play, because like you said, there's a good opportunity coming into conference for this team to turn it around, especially how they play against Ohio State.
Well, Tyler, this is a pretty good Tulsa team. Probably exceeding expectations a little bit more than a lot of people thought, because you lose a great quarterback in G.J. Kinney from last year's team. But Tulsa's sitting at 3-1, 1-0 in the conference. They're averaging about 482 yards per game, 236 in the air, 245 on the ground. Very balanced, averaging about 40 points and only giving up about 22. So very good team there. Bill Blankenship, of course, I think it's year number 2 for him. But talk about this. If UAB were to drop this game and go 0-4 with that Southeast Louisiana following the Tulsa game, do you think UAB can still make a bowl run since the Conference USA East division is kind of down this year?
Well, I do. I want to backtrack on your first point there a little bit where you were talking about Tulsa. Yes, this Tulsa team's really good. It's not the Tulsa team you saw last year. This is a team that gets most of their yards. They're more of a rushing attack now than through the air. And they've had 3 different running backs go over 100 yards at least once this season already. And defensively, they believe they're the best team in Conference USA on that side of the ball. It's hard to argue with them. They have the most sacks in the conference. Actually, I believe they lead the nation in sacks. So that they're getting after the quarterback, which is a little surprising to me that McGee may be starting Austin Brown for his very first start against a defense like that. But in saying that if UAB did drop this game, I do think they could still make a run. Now, Dan, me and you talked earlier this week about how there is 5 new Conference USA coaches. 5 schools have coaches who are in their first year at that school, and they're combined 0-16 right now. None of the first-year coaches in Conference USA has even won a game. So this conference is going to be wide open. So even if they drop to 0-4 and 0-1 in the conference, if they come back and can, obviously they'll have to take care of Southeast Louisiana at homecoming, I could still see them getting 5 wins, going 5-3 in the conference, and maybe getting to a bowl game because you've got teams like Memphis and Tulane, Southern Miss, and Houston on the schedule, and all those teams are struggling. They're not even, they're getting blown out. And UAB is at least, they played well in the first half against South Carolina, and they also played really well against Ohio State. I think they've improved more based on the competition that they faced.
Well, Tyler, you mentioned about the new coaches in the league. If you were to rank the performance of the new coaches thus far, I take it from your last comment about UAB possibly making a bowl run, which I agree with as well, that you think that Coach McGee has maybe outperformed some, if not all, of those new coaches in the league thus far.
Well, you have to look from week 1 to week 4, and obviously several of those teams had a bye week. There's no doubt this UAB team is not the same team that marched on the field against Troy. I've got to see Southern Miss a lot, and I would probably put Ellis Johnson in the worst position of those coaches. I rank him number 5 right now because he had some decent players coming back, and they're just struggling, and they can't. They got blown out at Western Kentucky. They lost at home to an East Carolina team that seems to be a little subpar as well this year. And then you look at the others. Memphis and Tulane still haven't done anything, but haven't shown that they're getting that much better. Most of those coaches really walking into situations that are rebuilding projects, maybe for a couple of years. And then you talk about Houston and Coach, I believe it's Levine. He's really underachieved there as well. Even losing to Texas State, who's in their first year in the FCS. So I definitely think that McGee has outperformed those other coaches because even though he hasn't got the win, there's been steady improvement against quality opponents. And the other coaches right now and their teams just don't have that to show.
Right.
Well, Tyler, like we stated earlier, a lot of attention is on the quarterback position, but let's talk about the running game. We got 4 good backs out there for UAB. Darren Reeves, of course, he came on the scene against Central Florida last year, and of course in the Southern Miss game. Let's talk about his workload through 3 games this season. Against Troy, he had 11 attempts for 48 yards. At South Carolina, he had 7 attempts for only 10 yards. But last week in Columbus against Ohio State, he had 16 for 72. Where do you see Darren Reeves fitting into this offense? Do you think he's going to be the starter, or do you think he's just going to be a second or third down type?
I think he's going to be the starter, and that's kind of hard to say because Franklin has, performed really well last year. This is an offensive line that struggled to come together. They replaced a lot of players. Chris Hubbard was the only returning guy, and he is all preseason conference USA. But when you're replacing 4 offensive linemen, that's very difficult at any time. In the run game, despite having 4 very talented running backs, they haven't been able to establish that run game. And that's one of the reasons I think Jonathan Perry and Austin Brown have had some issues. When they had to throw the ball a little bit quick, didn't have no time in the pocket, and then there's no holes for the running back. So it's gotten better the last couple of games, but I think what you've seen with Darren is he had a knee injury and he actually missed spring, and just came back during the fall camp. I think he's just now really getting back to full strength. I think that's one of the issues, and he's really just getting back to the Darren Reeves we saw last year. But like Craig Franklin and Bashir Cole, for instance, Bashir Cole had not even played much until this past week, had a huge 32-yard catch. They're finding other ways to get the ball to those guys. So that's been something I've been harping on with the running game. They're too talented of playmakers that if you can't establish the run, you still got to get the ball to them somehow. And I thought the offense did a better job of that last week, getting the ball a little bit to Franklin, getting the ball to Bashir Cole, and even Dontavius Jackson had some really good blocks. He was out on the field, didn't have that many good runs. All 4 running backs really came to play last week and contributed. That's what UAB needs for all those guys to do because they all bring different skills. But Darren, to me, is the guy. I think he's the best one right now out of them, and I think he's going to win the starting job, and I think he'll be getting. If he's not the starter, I still think he's going to take the most snaps of any of those guys.
Tyler, looking long term for the rest of the year, I look at UAB, and obviously you're a guy that covers UAB a lot. You've got a great UAB website in your own right, where you cover the Blazers exclusively. But as I look at UAB, I see where the key to UAB season is going to be when they get in the red zone, or even when they get inside the 30-yard line, making touchdowns instead of having to settle for long field goals. I mean, I guess the brighter spot for UAB on Saturday was the fact that they found out that Ty Long is probably one of the best kickers in Division I football. But the problem with that obviously is, Tyler, is we all know, we're all big football fans on this interview as well as media people. We all know you don't win a whole lot of football games kicking field goals. So, can UAB's offense improve enough to start scoring more touchdowns as we go through the rest of the year?
Well, they're getting to the red zone. They're just not finishing the drive off. I think they will, and I think that's one of the other reasons that they looked at the quarterback swap was the offense under Perry didn't convert the way that they wanted to, and that could even go back to last year because UAB was not very good last year in the red zone. So I think that's something that McGee's looking at. They have to improve that statistic. They have to score some more touchdowns. It's amazing to me that they were on the road as a top 15 team and played Ohio State that close and had no points from the offense. The touchdown was a special teams punt block, and the rest of them were field goals from Ty Long, and they are very blessed to have Ty Long because pretty much I almost feel like sometimes that if they get a touchback at the 25, they're almost in his range. The kid has got a heck of a leg, 54 yards, and he probably could have hit that from 58, 59 yards, maybe even 60. He had plenty of clearance on that field goal. So, they're very lucky to have it, but when is this offense going to click and start getting a few touchdowns in the red zone? I think when they get a couple, I think it's just going to start easing into that naturally. I think it'll start overflowing, but the reason to worry is at what point is that going to happen? Are you going to have a shot still this season to play in the postseason with this week of a conference? This conference has definitely taken a step back, and for Coach McGee and the UAB Blazer team that's got so many young players, this is a good time, for them to get that together and to make a run. But they're going to have to get those red zone situations fixed, or there's no way that they even get close to them on that.
Well, Tyler, my last question is basically building off what you just stated. When will this start clicking and scoring some touchdowns? Look at Jackie Williams. So far for three games this season, 16 receptions, 255 receiving yards, but no touchdowns. Look at last year, pretty much the same top performance, but no receiving touchdowns. Of course, he had a couple rushing touchdowns throughout the year, I think one or two. But when is he going to find the end zone? When is Garrett McGee going to chalk up some plays and get him into the end zone receiving-wise?
Well, how crazy it was last year that Jackie only played in 11 games last year. He missed one game, so he played in 11 of the 12 games. Yet he doubled the nearest UAB receiver in reception. He had like 62, and I think Patrick Hearn was second, had 31 receptions, and Jackie still didn't get a touchdown. That was unbelievable stat to think about last year. And it's continued this year. There are some guys who have better rates, like Jamarcus Nelson. He catches a lot of touchdown passes compared to how many receptions he gets, but they've got to find a way to get not only Jackie Williams in the end zone, but Patrick Hearn as well. Those two guys have really had good years for them. And I don't know what happens when they get down in that 20. If it's because it's almost as if the offense struggles with the shortened field. UAB's offense seems to do better out in the open when they have more space and can spread the field and use their team speed. But the lack of offensive line experience is, I think, what is causing problems in the red zone. That offensive line is just, the sooner it comes together, the more time I think that the quarterback's going to have to find those players like Jackie Williams and Patrick Hearn. So they're going to have to get those. If those guys aren't scoring touchdowns for UAB, as productive as they are, just like you said, Dan, it's going to be very difficult for them to win very many football games.
Tyler, my last question. I like to look at point spreads, and obviously I think UAB is a pretty good pick this week. They're a 2-touchdown underdog at home, but I think a lot of that has to do with one, Tulsa started the year playing pretty well, and then two, obviously, the records of the teams is also factored into the point spread. So I think the Blazers have a shot to win this game, and in saying that, I think UAB may be a good way to go on the Vegas side of things. What's your take on the game, and do you expect a close game?
Well, I do. I am kind of looking for it to be a close game, but I do feel like if there are some mistakes made early, that Tulsa's a team that could get UAB quick. They strike quick. Last week they played Fresno State, and if you remember, 2 weeks ago Fresno State hung 69 points on Colorado, and last week they took like a 20-7 lead on Tulsa, and then Tulsa just shut them down and came back and won that game 27-26 against probably one of the best non-BCS schools in the country in Fresno State. So, I mean, when they get the momentum going, Tulsa can really start going. If they can, for UAB to come out, they need to set the tone early and realize that they got to play 4 solid quarters, or Tulsa can turn it on them at any second. And they're just a good, well-balanced Conference USA football team. But just my gut instinct on this game, I do think it's going to be close. I think it will be within the 2-touchdown spread. But if I had to go right now, I'd say that I would probably take Tulsa about a touchdown right now. But if UAB can come out and fix those red zone problems, and Austin Brown or whoever the quarterback is has a good day, this is definitely a game where UAB can turn the corner.
Hey Tyler, speaking of Austin Brown, did you ever watch Friday Night Lights, the TV show?
Just a little bit.
Do you remember Matt Saracen? Does he not look like Austin Brown, same size and everything?
He does look like him a little bit, doesn't he? I didn't thought of that.
But maybe he came in a backup role and led that team to a state championship, so maybe Austin Brown can come in and lead UAB to a bowl game, so that'd be pretty good stuff.
It would be, and again, not to keep harping on it, but I do think that UAB would benefit from playing the 2-quarterback system a little bit here, because both guys aren't selfish. But I have a lot of confidence in where Austin is now compared to where I saw him last year. He's improved so much in the system. And I definitely could see him being a very successful starting quarterback for UAB. If the right things come to place for him, and there's certain things quarterbacks can't control. And I do want to say I've been on the offensive line pretty hard during this segment, but they have improved. They looked a lot better in the last game. If they continue to improve, Austin or JP or whoever's back there, I think it's going to be a lot easier going.
Tyler, thanks so much for the time. We'd like to finish with you off the record as we finish the interview, and good luck to the Blazers this weekend in their conference home opener.